Okay, there we go. I think we still heard you, so it doesn't really matter. You had a very good voice. So, good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the Yankton County GOP for putting this on this evening here in Gayville. I'd like to thank the citizens of Gayville for opening up the community center for us. My name is John Markwart, and I'm currently the Yankton County Commissioner, chairman of the Yankton County Commissioner. Been chairman for the last 3 years, and I just decided to bring that experience to Pierre, thinking that I can bring local government to Pierre and let them, or hopefully make them understand what all goes on locally. I was born, I'm going to pick this up just so I don't have to look down all the time. But I was born in rural South Dakota farm country. I was the 11th child of 12 in our family. My parents owned a local grocery store out in the county. And so I learned values in humility, resilience, and community service at an early age. I attended a one-room schoolhouse through the first 4 years of my education, and finished my education in Emory High School. Graduated there from Emory High School. I met my wife Gail at a little dance hall in Milltown, South Dakota, and I guess I got the red sign, so I'll stop there and let Mike talk.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for coming, everybody, on this rainy night. Isn't it nice to have some rain? My name is Mike Stevens. I'm an attorney in town with John Blackburn. I've been in worked with him for 50 years. My wife Linda and I have 4 children between us. All of them graduated from Yankton High School. I have 4 grandchildren that all attend Gayville School. In fact, my brother's father-in-law was Cliff Bridge, and I don't know if you remember him, but he was superintendent here for many years for Gayville. I've served in the legislature. I've also served in the Yankton School Board for 22 years. Like being here, and I'd like to have the opportunity to continue serving with you in the legislature. I've held many different leadership positions there, and appreciate being here tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. I too also want to thank the Yankton County Republicans for hosting the event, and more importantly, thanking you for taking the time to come out tonight. My name is Jean Hunoff. I'm married to Dan Hunoff. We have 4 children and 10 grandchildren. I'm a registered nurse, and most of my career was spent at Sacred Heart Hospital, which is now Avera. I grew up in Tabor with the values of faith, family, and community, and that's really why I've committed myself to public service. I served on the Yankton City Commission, and I was a mayor of Yankton. I was in the legislature from 2000 to 2024. I served on joint appropriations and was in the leadership in most of that time. I went to Pierre to work with and for you. I have knowledge, experience, and demonstrated that trust with my colleagues ended up with resources coming back to this community. Longevity is not negative, it's a positive. Knowing what the needs are of South Dakota, knowing what the agencies are requesting, knowing how they spend those resources that they have, and then measuring the outcomes if they have accomplished of what they have done. To me, that is responsible stewardship for our general fund dollars and your dollars.
Thank you. Yep, I want to say too, thank you to the Yankton County GOP. Thank you for coming, and also thank the Lord for the rain. I was out and about in District 18 today, and everybody had a different demeanor. It was just really nice. So my name is Lauren Nelson. I am state senator for District 18. I'm finishing up my first term, my first 2 years out there. I am married to David. We farm north of Yankton. We have 3 grown children, and I am a teacher by trade. I'm also an administrator as well. And locally, I am the treasurer for the Yankton County Sharpshooters, which I thoroughly enjoy. And why do I want to go back to Pierre? I enjoy it. I really do. And the reason I enjoy serving the people of District 18 and getting to know the people of District 18. That has been an absolute joy for me. The other thing, too, is learning. The amount of information that I have learned in the last 2 years is unbelievable. And I've just really, it's been fascinating, but also, too, I've grown as a person as well with all this knowledge that I have learned. But also, too, what I've enjoyed is solving problems for the people of District 18. I enjoy getting those phone calls and when people say, hey, Senator Nelson, I'm having some issues up here. And I really enjoy, you know, calling somebody and getting some action, getting things done for the people. So glad you came tonight, and I look forward to your questions.
Thanks, Lauren. And now we're going to get right into the questions. And we're going to start with John Marquardt. And is there any questions in the crowd for the candidates? I see that as a no.
Come on.
This is for you, John. My name's Penny Doty, and I live by Irene. So I know you said in your campaign that you are here for the people. You are here to take care of the people. So tell me this. Of all the people that were against the wind turbines coming in, were you taking care of the people of Yankton County? Because you voted for it when nobody wanted it.
I beg to differ with you when you say nobody wanted it. We had in coming to the county commission meetings, we had 40, 50 people come in. On some nights, maybe 70. Yankton County consists of 18,323 residents. Now, just because they didn't come into the meeting and 75 or 80 or 100 people came into the meeting to speak, I also went out and talked to other people in the county. Now, I am here for all of the people in District 18 to listen and make sure that the decisions that I make are correct and with all of the people, not just a few. Now, a few of the people that were at the meetings were there. That's not to say that the other 18,000 people didn't come and talk to me or I didn't talk to them. Does everybody get to answer this question, or is that just for me?
Everybody gets to answer that one.
You know, it happens a lot. I've seen it during the time I've been up the legislature. You know, sometimes you get a lot of input from people. A lot of times you. Thank you. How's that? I appreciate it a lot. A lot of times people don't want to hear what I have to say anyway, so they like it down here. You know, you have a lot of issues such as that, and it is sometimes very, very difficult to determine, you know, you're trying to read all the tea leaves as to who's in favor of it and who's not in favor of certain issues. And so what you really do is you have to, you know, get in all the information, and then you have to make a decision. And I think that's one of the challenging parts, and I think one of the most sometimes enjoyable parts being a legislator. From the standpoint, I've always told everybody when they start that being in the legislature, from my standpoint, is the best gig in the state. And why I say that is twofold. Number one, there's only been about 4,000 people total in South Dakota's entire history that's ever got to serve in the legislature. But more importantly is that, you know, when you're sitting there in our little desk, because, you know, we don't have anything other than this little bitty desk, there's only a yes vote and there's a no vote. There's no maybe votes. And so you really then learn, you know, what you really see. And sometimes the decisions that you have to make are very close. They have some good reasons on both sides. And so there's that red thing again.
Well, I believe that local control is the best decision maker that's closest to the people. On this issue, I have to agree with Mike and I can only deal, not been on the commission, but with the issues in Pierre. You have those people that are very engaged and want you to know and hear the message of why they're for or why they are against the bill that's out there, or in this request with the wind farms. And as an individual, those wind farms not only touch District 18, but I believe there was another district that was involved in those wind farms. So you've got 2 districts now, or 2 or 3 counties of people, and you have to do an assessment and analysis. What's the greater benefit here? I don't know the process that was used, but that's part of any process. You need to find out at the end of the day, is there going to be a benefit for those people that are participating, for those owners that have the wind towers on their land, for those communities that may benefit from having that business around there? And then that's the decision has to be made. And it's above, with local control, that they can come back to you and say, this is the reason we made the decision. And again, it's in the long term, you're going to see if that result is there.
Well, I was there with the wind turbines, and I think the most frustrating thing is when people who are elected, who are supposed to represent the people, ignore the people who are going to be affected directly by these wind turbines. Because I saw it. The thing about it is, with those wind turbines, when you look at that, there was only like 5 people that actually lived up there who would be affected by those turbines. The rest of the people who got payments did not live up there. And I think it's very important when we have projects like the solar, we have projects like the wind, we have projects, data centers, whatever it may be, that elected leaders listen to the people who are living, who will have to live with it. That's the key. And not listening to the big corporations, the lobbyists, and whoever has the biggest handout and can pad their campaign elections. Because you can say that doesn't happen. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And so it's important. I think it's important that the county does have a zoning. Because again, your property rights, if you are doing something that is going to infringe on your neighbor and what how they're living and what they're doing, there needs to be something there to have that protection. But again, we have to listen to the people who are directly affected by whatever may be coming in.
This is kind of near and dear to my heart. I am a supervisor in Turkey Valley Township, the township that would be affected by these wind towers. We showed up in force to voice our opinion that we did not want or need those things in our neighborhood. I have a beautiful view from my country living home, and I did not want it disrupted by those things. The biggest thing, part of the reason I'm here is because of those, doing what I'm doing now. I want people's voices to be heard. I don't want to be told by somebody who doesn't live up there or farm up there or do anything up there except maybe own land to tell me that this is what I'm going to have. However, people do have property rights. But when you infringe on your neighbor to that extent, then we got to have a discussion. So it's hard for me to talk. My blood pressure's up to here right now over this. I've fought this tooth and nail, and that is why I'm here. I mean, I want people's voices to be heard and not be dictated to. Thank you.
Thank you guys for those answers. That was wonderful. Right. Is there any other questions from the crowd, or I'm going to,
Thank you. I'm Ann Schultz. Education in the past 9 years has almost doubled, but student outcomes have declined. What is your opinion on the current funding of the South Dakota education system?
Is it up good enough? All right. The education, public education has been fully funded for many years and goes all the way back to the time where Governor Dugard slashed 10%. I think there's a fallacy in saying that you have to compare the funding as opposed to output. You hear a lot about the different scores that come through, but what they don't tell you is this, is what schools have the issues. Because when you look at the scores of the Yankton, when it comes to those testing, you look at it, the Gayville, Vollen, Irene, Wakanda, we don't have those issues. And I think the important part of it is to identify those schools that are not meeting the standards, and those funds should be looking at that way. It really bothers me a lot to treat everybody across the state the same, because that's not happening in our education system here.
You know, I think Mike alluded to the fact when 2016, when we had the 10% cutback, we never regained anything. You didn't come back and start. You started at where you were at that 10%. And so as a result of that, we have not been able to fund K through 12. K through 12 is not like what you and I went to school with. Teachers are challenged now with behaviors that students have. They're not just teaching, they're being social workers out there. And when we compare scores, it's real easy to compare, oh, this school is not doing well, or even the scorings that they're using. And we need to emphasize that we need to do well for our students. If they have a strong foundation in a K through 12, then they're going to have success as they go on in post-high school in the programming that we are offering here in South Dakota. I think it's really important that we consider what we need to have. We need to relook at it, and we need to look at resources. And I'm going to say the other thing. If the community loses a school, they lose their community. And I can speak from experience to that. The businesses go, everything, because parents, young families want to go to communities that have schools so their kids can stay there. So if we start reducing funding and picking the winners and the losers, that's not going to help the rural communities, because if they're going to sustain, we need to keep them here. Thank you.
It's really easy to go find out what the test scores are for your schools. And the thing about it is 50%. Is 50% good? Is that adequate? Is 30%? Is 70%? So I think I would encourage all of you to go to the Secretary of State or Secretary of Education's website and look at the test scores that are out there right now. Last week, I had the opportunity to speak with a local teacher. Wow. She talked about disrespect from the students. She talked about misbehavior that she's dealing with and no support from parents and administrators. We've got some issues that we have are challenging our schools. And the thing about it is we've got to stop just throwing money. We say funding, funding, funding. We need to start investing. First place we need to start investing in is our K-3. Having been involved with juvenile justice, if you want to know why so many people are incarcerated, it's because of their K-3 education. If they can't read by the time they're third graders, the odds of them being incarcerated is astronomical. Second of all, I would like to see more mentorship programs within our schools. Again, studies have shown that a mentorship program is a huge difference in kids' lives. I guess also, too, preparing teachers, making teachers are ready for what they have to deal with in our classrooms. This particular teacher I talked to, 4 students with autism that she's dealing with very little training. Career tech programs. Studies show if you have a strong career tech program in your school, kids will remain in school and will be excited about school. Also, too, schools thinking outside the box.
Make sure it's on. Okay. So I'm not extremely well versed in this, but what I've seen and read, I think we need to take the focus off of how to pay the administration, which is not including the teachers, and focus on the students. We need to get back to the basics. There are too many distractions and avenues to funnel money into. We need to go back to the KISS theory. Keep it simple. Our kids deserve and need a quality education for the future of our state. The money matters, but how it is spent matters the most.
So definitely public education needs to be funded in a way that we can manage from the state level. Enhancing early childhood development is very important, and I think we've got in Yankton County and the Yankton School District, we have one of the best early childhood development centers in the state. Teacher support and in retention. How can we support our teachers more without giving them, cutting their salaries and cutting their budgets every year. For the last 2 years, you've heard that the legislator has given the teachers education 1.25 and 1.4 in the last 2 years. Cost of living increases, which several of you, I think, have gotten over the last 2 years, has been 2.8 to 3%. That means that we're cutting the education system in revenue that should be paid out to the teachers. And there's a bill that says that that money goes to the teachers. It doesn't go to support the administration. So I think the legislation has taken care of that issue in the past couple of years. However, the number that they're funding is low. Curriculum development. We need to work on a curriculum that is not cutting our kids down to K through 3 to where they can't read. We need to develop that to go further. Thanks.
And this speaks, the question that I have, and to the K-12 question, but as well as county commission later on, because we've heard that there's so many mandates, unfunded mandates that come out of either the federal government or the state government, that local governments, whether it's the county or a township or the schools, have to abide by. And they're not given additional funding for that. So my question is twofold. How many laws are written and passed each year that add to an ever burgeoning codified law in South Dakota? When you look at the statutes in South Dakota, is anything ever cleared out? How do we go about taking away the burden, the regulatory burden, the financial burden? That's the answer that I think that we need to look at, instead of creating more laws, more regulations, more. What can we do to create less? Maybe like Mike said, keep it simple. Let's get back to where it's manageable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. That's a loaded question. So I've heard the unfunded mandates. I understand that piece. But you realize some of those things you can take away. I mean, you can discontinue I sat on interim rules for 24 years. So every time a new law comes into place, then the agency has to create policies or rules how to implement that law. That adds costs. Now, there's also the intent that when there's bills out there, there's a question of asked, what's it going to cost to implement this bill? And so you get a fiscal statement of what it's going to be on the cost for the state of South Dakota. So sometimes those things are done. On the unfunded mandates, those that have to stay on, if the county's not going to absorb them, you know where they're going to go. Then it'll go to the state. So if it goes to the state, then the question will be, well, where are you going to get the money for that? It's from the general fund? Are you going to have to raise taxes? It's really a cost shifting that you're going to do. I know there's a lot of discussion, and there could be a summer study that looks at these unfunded mandates and goes through sections. I'll tell you the other thing. South Dakota is tough on crime, okay? Every one of those criminal proceedings that goes on, there's mandates that go with it as to what we are doing. You know, we've tried to provide some relief for the counties where we've now have prosecutors that are taking some of those more costly cases for the counties, so we're doing some things. The other thing is we did fund cybersecurity at a tune of $7 million for the state. I understand it's not all expended. I have to quit.
Whew, where do I start? My head is spinning here. Yeah, unfunded mandates, and that's one of the things when I'm reelected as state senator to really look at, because there are. If, my thought is if the state thinks it's that important, either fund it themselves or provide the money to do it. And I think there's a lot of things. I've been in talks with the county commission to say, you know, what are some things that do we really need it? But also, too, looking at how can we have our counties be able to share resources. And again, I go back to buying asphalt by our county road people and counties coming to get together to be able to, get a cheaper bid. And so the other thing too that this brings to mind, I want to go to because I had a bill that got popped on this, is the fact that when you want to do something as a state, but if you do it, you'll lose your federal money. That happened this year. I had superintendents who wanted to have a little flexibility in their juniors testing. Every junior has to take the ACT now. And so I brought a bill, said, hey, let's give the superintendents, the school boards, a little flexibility. Guess what? We can't do it. Why? You'll lose federal money. And so that's the other thing you have to remember and think about too, is the fact that we have a lot of things going on in our state that maybe it's like, geez, do we really want it? Do we really need it? But again, if we don't do it, we're dictated by the federal government and we'll lose that money. And so there's a lot of things going on. But again, going back to those unfunded mandates, we really need to look at those and say, are they really needed?
So I think the unfunded mandate thing's been addressed. One thing you said, Sandy, was codified law. So I was fishing one night and I had a sheriff show up and say, you have to leave along Jim River. You're trespassing. Didn't argue, just left. Well, then I got thinking about it. So I looked up the codified law. Well, the Corps of Engineers has a high water mark. You are not trespassing as long as you are beneath that high water mark, and we did not cross private property to reach this. So I thought, well, we weren't trespassing. And then it said, see codified law, whatever. So I went and looked at that, and believe it or not, that law contradicted the one I had just read. So then what do you do? So yes, that needs addressed big time, because I am sure there's so many duplicate laws out there or contradicting laws. It's kind of like your doctor prescribing you meds and one's canceling the other. How we go about doing that, I do not know, but I'd sure like to find out. Thank you.
Thank you also for that question, because as a county commissioner, I know all of the unfunded mandates, and I can't say that they're unfunded because they're funded by the property taxes. So it's not really unfunded, but there are mandates by the state of South Dakota, the legislature, that need to be looked at. Last year, Yankton County spent over $500,000 for court-appointed attorneys. Now, and the state of South Dakota is really the only state in the union that enforces that rule. Also, juvenile detention, delinquency, and things like that. So my plan is to go to Peer and say, hey guys, I know you don't have all the funding to take over the $500,000 for court-appointed attorneys, but let's come up with a solution and reimburse Yankton County and other counties a percentage or something to help the counties. Because if you take 10% of $500,000, $200,000 for delinquency, you round those numbers up, you get $1 million. You take 10% of that's $100,000. That's gonna help reinforce some roads and bridges and things like that, or will generate an avenue to reduce property taxes. Which every time we reduce our expenses, that calculation reduces property taxes.
I'm going to address it in 3 different ways. First of all, in the first couple of days of the legislative session, each one of the different areas in the legislature, the different committees and the departments bring bills to eliminate things that you were talking about, Mike, as far as bills that are either not necessary or whatever they might be. But to get to the heart of the things is really this. People make it complicated, and that's why we have to mend some of the laws. And let me just go back to this. Remember, there's this old man with a beard. His name was Moses. And he decided that all we needed was 10 laws, right? Well, that didn't work out so well because then we had Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy, right? And that's kind of the way it is in society from that kind of a standpoint. One of the things that I think we've seen a change in that I think hope deals with some unfunded mandates, but really deal with funding. And that is, we're starting to see a change in the legislature where more and more opportunity is given to local control to determine whether or not we want to do something or not. When I first on the Yankton School Board, each school district would come to the taxpayers and say, this is the amount of money that we need for taxes to educate our kids, and then that's when the taxes would be determined. We're starting to see some legislation that gives that type of authority not only to the counties but also to the municipalities.
We have one more question.
Well, all of you up there are asking us in District 18 to represent us in, whoops. And we would like to know what type of local governance experience you have and how that's going to help you to actually represent the people here and help you to identify with the actual needs of the people. Lately, we've been seeing this big war in the state of South Dakota over whether you represent the local people or the big businesses.
Thank you.
Excuse me, thank you. My experience in government has been, before this, doing this, has been being on the Yankton County Planning and Zoning. But I think it goes back to not exactly what experience I've had. It's more of what my personality is. I have a servant heart, plain and simple, and I blame it on being the middle child. I'm not the oldest getting all the attention or the youngest getting neglected. I'm in the middle, and I'm kind of under the radar, but I have that servant heart. And that's the thing that I enjoy. That's what I'm here for, is to listen to you. What are your concerns? What are your issues? And bringing those to peer. I mean, I think one of the best things that happened this session was having somebody call me a couple days before session started with an issue. I said, let's go. Let's write a bill. Let's see what happens here. Put it in front of both houses, passed, the governor signed it, and now we have a law. Again, initiated by a person in District 18. And I feel that's what's all about being a senator or representative, is being there for the people of your district, listening to them, and again, representing them. And also to respecting them. And that's another thing too. I don't agree with everybody, but again, respecting somebody and knowing that they're a child of God, created in the image of God, and we may disagree. But again, listening to them, because you know what? Like somebody told me, you never know what something new or somebody might change how your thinking is. So listen, and that's what I do.
The reason I want to go to peer is to be a voice for the people of District 18. Being on a township board, we have a smaller budget than the county, way smaller budget than the county, but we still have to take care of our roads. We still have to take care of culverts, the county does the bridges. And if we have a big issue or a big event going on in our township, we'll just call everybody, or we'll run into somebody on the road and we'll have a tailgate meeting. And we've gotten more stuff accomplished with those than anything I've ever seen. So I want to hear, if you elect me to go to peer, I want to hear people's voice. My phone number is going to be out there. Call it. If I don't answer, leave a message. I'll get back to you. And like Lauren said, nobody's going to agree all the time on everything. But the majority rules, not just one special interest. Thank you.
Well, I think as just like both Lord and Mike have said, that communication is key. And I've been chairman of the Yankton County Commission for 3 years. Been on the commission, I'll be on it for 4 years come December 31st. Other than the wind tower situation where most of the people in this room never called me, never emailed me, but came to the meeting and told us about their issues. Other than that, one particular issue, I've not gotten an email from any of you. Never got a phone call from any of you. Why is that? I have no clue. I will listen to every one of you, but I don't know why that's such an issue. I know other county commissioners have gotten emails, gotten calls. That's fine. It doesn't bother me a bit because I have a full-time job that I got to deal with also. But I can guarantee you that if you call me with an issue, I will deal with it. And I have dealt with issues in Yankton County, major issues that have gone on in the last 3 years. Stone Church Bridge, Mike Slotchek and myself went to the state and the federal government to get that project done. I just had a person tell me tonight that they were really glad that that bridge is getting replaced because that represents connection between Yankton County and other facilities. So, thanks.
Well, the experience that I had before I was in the legislatures, I served in the Yankton School Board for 22 years. I don't know if any of you have ever served on a school board, but people don't have a very hard time finding you when you're on the school board and feeling very open to chat about some very special things. You know, I think that's the challenge whenever you serve in the legislature of serving 25,000 people in your district. You have those people who their world is agriculture. You have those who are in the city. You have those who are in the manufacturing industry. You have people who like me are old, and we have our own things, and so we're looking for the best nursing home available. When we get to that point, we have young people who are looking for jobs. And I will say, you know, I keep hearing this thing about big business, and you're doing big business. But you know, when I look at big businesses, this is what I see. You know, they have some needs and they have some concerns. And those big businesses also do this. They provide jobs for our kids who then buy houses, who then stay in our communities. And so I have a hard time separating those out. I can tell you this, that I haven't made a buck serving in the legislature. I haven't earned $1 and I've lost money being in the legislature, but it's to me quite an honor to be able to serve the citizens of Yankton. And I will tell you this, I have answered every email that anybody's ever sent me up at the legislature. I've not missed one. And so I'm available, and when people call, I want that red thing when you're done.
Thank you for the question. You know, I got on the city commission because we lived in the lower end of East Yankton, and there wasn't a decent park there for our children to play on. And I got very frustrated, so I went out and I worked with the Parks and Recs department. They wouldn't listen, so I went to the city commission so we could get some good playground. And that's enticed me that I wanted to go on because that was an issue that I wanted, and the people were going to listen to what I wanted. I appreciate what you're saying. When you're in Pierre, you're representing your district and you're representing the state of South Dakota. And you've got to balance that out in what you want. And sometimes you don't need a bill. Sometimes it's who you know and what you know. Had a farmer up here that wanted to put drainage tile in that was going to run off into some GF&P property. Had contacted GF&P, and they were in Sioux Falls, and they used their digital or whatever you call that to look at the land that's out there, and they said, no, you cannot do that. He kept fighting with them, so he gave me a call. So what did I do? I knew someone at GF&P that was over that. I said, you come down to Yankton, and I want you to talk to this person, want you to look at the property and see what he's trying to explain to you, and that it's okay, because it seemed to be. The guy came down, came for a soccer game. He went out, he met the farmer and his son. They looked at the plat and what they wanted for the drainage tile, and guess what? GF&P said, we really missed it in Sioux Falls. You can go ahead and do it, no problem. It got it solved. When you can work that way and do one-to-ones and have those networks and know who those people are to contact to get things done, that is much better than a bill. Thank you.
Well, let's, that was the 4 questions, and let's have a 5-minute break. Oh, closings, yes. Forgot. Closings.
So I'm running for the House because District 18 deserves a representative focused on the people, not agendas of big corporate interest. And Pierre, I will be a tool for the taxpayer, working to protect our property rights, defending land against overreach, smart economic development, growing our economy in a way that is strategic, sustainable, and benefits the community long term, not just quick hits, quick wins. Fiscal responsibility, keeping the budget tight and the government accountable. Second Amendment, protecting our right to bear arms. And a foundational conservative values, common sense leadership, and a completely transparent government. It's time for a representative who understands how things work from the ground up. I'm ready to get to work for you. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you again all for showing up this evening and listening to me go ramble on. But I'm going to ramble on for just another minute or so, and I just want you to understand that I would like to earn your vote to go to Pierre to represent you, the people of District 18, and like I said, I've got the experience as county commissioner to make sure that your tax dollars in District 18 and throughout the whole state of South Dakota are spent wisely and move forward with education. Like Mike said, the Second Amendment, I'm a firm believer in that, to bear arms, and just move everything forward. And I understand what needs to take place to go to Pierre and make things better for Yankton County and for District 18 and the rest of the state. Thank you.
You know, the philosophy that I guess I have when I look at different things is I really like living in South Dakota, and I want my kids to stay here too. I want them to have a job. I want to have a nice house to live. I want them to feel safe. And so when I look at different legislation, those are really some of the framework that, that I look at. I hear people say, well, I want to go to Pierre because I want people to be the voice of the people. And, we've got 25,000 people in our district, and we don't always agree. And sometimes people say, well, you're not listening to the people. No, that's not really true. You listen to the people, you just may not agree with the people. You may not agree with their opinions. Because I'll guarantee you this, our society is kind of like putting 7 lawyers in the same room. You're going to have 8 different opinions. And you got to figure out which ones that you think are appropriate. And, you can talk about this issue and that issue, but I think what you will find is when you get to the legislature, you have some really smart people and you have some really close calls on bills as to what we should pass or what we shouldn't. And the best thing that I can do, and I've done it throughout the time that I've been up there, is I study it really hard. I listen to people. When there's something that comes up with agriculture, I talk to people that are involved in agriculture. And then I try to make the very best decision that I think is best for our district and for our kids in the long term. So thanks for coming. I want both of them.
Again, I want to thank our hosts and all of you for attending tonight. You don't stop going to your doctor, your dentist, or your banker because of their long careers, but rather because you trust them for the care and the service that they provide to you. We may not agree all the time, but in reality, we're not going to. We're both looking for the best win for all of us. What I have delivered for this district over the course of the years has been dollars that have come back to support our communities in infrastructure, in water, in education, in healthcare, agriculture, and jobs for our communities. Rural communities are a priority, and they're important to me, and we need to make them that they can last for the long term in our district. Listening and finding solutions and options, that's really was my priority. In Pierre, there are 105 legislators, and they're all involved in the budget process. And it was my job to wrangle everyone together to come with a very conservative budget that all 105 can support. Thank you.
My closing is going to go back to Lori's question because I was just thinking about that. In 2024, we had historic primary wins. We ushered in a brand new set of legislators who, in my opinion, have been more accountable to you, more transparent, and I think, but the most important thing is listening. Listening to you, the people of South Dakota, people of District 18, and not to lobbyists, not to big corporations. And I think here in 2026, we've got the same choice. And I think the thing about it is, do we want to go back to what we had before? Or do we want to move forward, continue moving forward with what we have gained these last 2 years in the legislature? I feel the last 2 years, the people of South Dakota have been listened to and have had a seat at the table. And I'm very proud of that fact. Because I remember 2024, galleries full of average citizens of South Dakota, committee rooms filled with average members of South Dakota, pleading to keep their rights and their freedoms, and they were ignored. And so it goes back to Lori's listening to the people of South Dakota. And so I would humbly ask for your support on June 2nd. Thanks.
I'm going to thank all the candidates. They were wonderful. They answered the questions.